Hello, my name is Jack Milne with the House Whisperer Show and Tri-County Inspection Company. I thought today we'd talk about ventilation. It's one of these things that we kind of take for granted. How well does our house truly breathe? So we're going to go through quite a few ideas today, and I want to start with our attic spaces. Today, in new construction, they're doing two types of venting. One is in the soffit or the overhang of the house, and then along the very peak of the roof is something called a ridge vent. Now, when the house is constructed, what they do is they cut the sheathing back at the peak about an inch on each side. Then they put this fabric over it, and then they put the shingle over top of that. Now, the theory of that is as wind blows, it creates negative pressure at the ridge and then draws the air from the soffit. Well, that's why they call it a theory, because if you have the warm days like we do here in the Northeast and it's humid and there's no air movement, well, there's no air movement out of your attic either. Now, why is that important? We want to keep our attics as cold as possible because mold will establish itself when you have a dark and damp environment. And whoever visits their attic, and what's really key too is that when we have the vents in the soffits, we have to have some type of an air baffle or a chamber that goes between the roof deck and the insulation to ensure this airflow. Older generation folks, and there's nothing I have against that, but always thought that they needed their attic to be warm in order for their house to be warm. Well, that again can lead to mold. And I've been in too many homes where on the south side, the sheathing's in great shape, but on the north side, the dark side, is where all this moisture from the attic sticks. So it's not a good idea to have that scenario in your attic. Now, as I go around this roof today, I'm going to show you various styles of ventilation as well. So I want you to check your attic. I want you to see if you see any daylight in these soffits. If you don't, pull the insulation back. If you have mold in your attic, it's usually caused by bath fans. Now, bath fans are important as well. Powder rooms do not need to vent to the exterior of the home because we're only dealing with odor, but whenever a shower is involved, the code man says open the window prior to showering, and that's probably a good idea when the weather's warm, but it's a bad idea when it's cold. And then what happens? That moisture is going to end up in your attic, either passively or actively. Passively means it's just going to work up through the drywall and the insulation and get to the roof deck, and actively, of course, is with a bath fan. So bath fans for shower environments should always vent to the exterior of the home. We can use gable end vents. We can even channel it to the ridge vent. We can go through the roof surface. That's how they do it with new construction, or again, through the soffit. Now, being a home inspector for forever, I've seen bath fans that are actually in the shower environment. And today we're not only dealing with the standard gooseneck with a shower head, but we're also dealing with handhelds. And if the bath fan is not ground fault protected, I'm going to suggest an electrician do so because, you know, accidents happen, but that could also lead to electrocution if that bath fan's not protected. So let's walk the roof, and I'm going to show you how I vent my house. Now, in this section of my home, this is a ridge vent here. So you can see how it's raised up off the roof surface. Again, it has a way to inhale as well as exhale. This is a cupola, one of my favorites, okay, because I'm an avid motorcyclist. But anyway, this is actually open into the attic environment below. So we usually see cupolas on older style farmhouses and items like that. But again, another old style of ventilation. Now, let me take it to the upper roof. Now, I'm on the roof of my addition. This space has vaulted ceilings. So when I constructed it, my rafters were 2x10s. So I could do my 9 inches of insulation and my air baffle to ensure, once again, airflow from the underside of the roof line and a ridge vent on this side here. Now, in order to keep the look, I also ran a ridge vent here, but I did not cut the sheathing through because I'm counting on my gable end vents. Okay, and that's this vent right here. Now that is open. It allows cross ventilation, left and right. But the other thing I did here for my bathrooms is this is where I vented my bath fans too. So once again, those fans are leading to the exterior of the home and then to the environment. Now, I also installed an attic fan. So I'm going to walk up one more. This looks actually like a flying saucer. And I tell my clients to set the fan for 90 degrees, and it usually runs from about 10 in the morning to about 10 at night. And a typical attic can range from 130 to 170 degrees over the summer. So again, that's why we need to keep this environment cool. We have to calm it down a little bit. With new construction, because we only have the vents and the soffits and the ridge vents, there's this phenomenon called truss lift. And truss lift is caused by the constant change in temperature of the attic. So an attic during the winter months can be 60 to 65 degrees, but during the summer, again, over 100 degrees hotter. So that's why with new construction, we may see a lot of crown molding on the second floor. And what that's designed to do is to hide that truss lift. But I've been in homes where that ceiling has raised a half inch to an inch because the attic is too hot. So we insulate our homes to try to keep the heat in, but at the end of the day, you want this attic space to be as cold as possible. So do we install ridge vents and attic fans? There's a lot of discussions on that. With a hip roof, where we're all trapezoids and triangles, I do encourage it. Because to me, it's like an upside down funnel. You might have the ventilation around the perimeter of the roof line at the base, underside, but the very peak is short. It might be 10 feet or 12 feet with a ridge vent. So it's very, very hard for those roof systems to breathe. So yes, I do encourage an attic fan in that scenario. So, okay, let me work my way back down. Well, I figured let's leave the exterior and let's talk on the interior of the home for a few minutes. Crawl spaces. Some homes have them, some don't. But if you do have one, look around the perimeter of the house and you'll see these rectangular vents that you can tap with a hammer and a screwdriver to open and close them. If your crawl space is separated from the basement, then it's important that you leave those vents open. Again, it's all about airflow. However, if you have an opening between the basement and your crawl space, you want to have what we call this makeup air to blend, I guess is the best word, the airflow. Now, some people, when they finish their basement, want to close that gap off. Well, that's fine, but you know, get creative. How about if you do like a louvered shutter? You know, that will still allow the airflow through, okay? But just kind of, in quote, closing it off as well. Crawl spaces can actually allow the transfer of moisture from that space to the attic environment. So if you have a damp crawl space, you're going to have a damp attic. The other thing that's important, and we're going to talk about this in a future segment, is humidification versus dehumidification. So if you have a humidifier on your furnace and you have that set on rainforest, well, that in turn can also allow that moisture to work its way back into the attic. So ventilation is key to a healthy home. Mold is bad, and the cooler we keep our attic, the less chance that that's going to happen. So if you like the content, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next month.